Here's a fully developed, cinematic, heart-touching story tailored to your instructions, suitable for a long-form YouTube video around 6,000 words. I've included the calls to action and structured it with emotional pacing. I've kept it in long, plain paragraphs for maximum storytelling immersion. The cafe was buzzing with the quiet hum of morning routines, the clinking of cups, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air like a warm embrace. She stood at the counter, her designer coat draped perfectly over her shoulders, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, and her mind running 1,000 miles ahead, balancing meetings, acquisitions, and the relentless weight of a life lived in boardrooms and glass towers. Yet, for a moment, she had stepped out of her high-rise fortress, craving something ordinary, something as simple as a cup of coffee and a fleeting sense of normalcy. She reached into her wallet with a faint, rehearsed smile, confident that nothing in the world could deny her this small indulgence. And then, the machine beeped, red and unforgiving, her card was declined. Her heart skipped. Not in embarrassment, but in disbelief. How could this happen to her? To anyone? Before panic could rise, a gentle voice came from behind. A man, worn jeans, a hoodie, and a tired but kind expression, smiled and offered quietly, without a hint of judgment, to cover her coffee. Something in his eyes, a mixture of fatigue and sincerity, made her hesitate. She wanted to refuse. She was the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world. Money, power, influence, none of it could ever make her feel indebted to a stranger. But there was something raw, human, and unassuming about him that made her pause. Maybe it was the exhaustion etched into his face, the quiet pride he carried even in struggle, or the warmth in his gesture. She nodded, muttering her thanks, and took the cup from his hands. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that a single act can change lives, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, The Kindness Chronicles. She followed him to a nearby table, her curiosity piqued. He sat with a notebook open, scribbled notes surrounding what looked like school schedules, grocery lists, and meticulous plans to keep life afloat. She learned, piece by piece, that he was a single father, working multiple jobs just to provide for his young daughter. Nights were long, mornings were short, and his sacrifices were endless. There was no room for complaints, only survival and devotion. And yet, he smiled more genuinely than anyone she had ever met in her world of polished boardrooms and orchestrated smiles. She, who had always commanded rooms, found herself listening quietly, captivated by the rhythm of a life so different from her own, yet so profoundly alive. Days passed, and the memory of that morning lingered like a gentle shadow. She returned to her empire, her office towering over the city like a testament to her relentless drive, yet she felt strangely hollow. Every decision, every negotiation, felt a little less meaningful. She realized that in all her wealth and power, she had been chasing things that couldn't fill the spaces that mattered most. She thought of the man who had stepped in to pay for her coffee, the way his daughter's laughter must sound, the way love and responsibility radiated from him effortlessly. In him, she saw a life she hadn't allowed herself to imagine. Fate, it seemed, wasn't finished. One evening, after a grueling board meeting that had left her more exhausted than victorious, she returned to the same cafe. He was there again, balancing homework and part-time shifts, the same unwavering determination evident in every line of his face. Their conversation flowed easily, unburdened by titles or resumes. She began to see his world, not as a spectator, but as a participant, learning the rhythms of a life governed by love rather than ambition. He never once knew who she really was. She hadn't told him, and he hadn't asked. Perhaps it was better that way, she thought. What mattered was the human connection, not the wealth or the accolades that defined her elsewhere. Over weeks, their bond deepened. She watched the way he struggled yet persevered, the way he celebrated his daughter's small victories, the pride he took in the life he was building, and the tenderness that seemed to flow from the simplest acts of care. It was a world away from power suits and corporate boardrooms, yet in it, she felt a clarity she had never known. And in him, she saw a reflection of something she had long denied herself: authenticity. One rainy evening, when the café was nearly empty and the world outside blurred into streaks of water and light, a crisis struck. His car had broken down, bills were due, and the weight of responsibility pressed harder than ever. He hadn't asked for help, nor would he. But she offered, quietly, without fanfare. She didn't present a check, a loan, or a solution wrapped in her corporate identity. She simply said, "Let me help." And for the first time, he hesitated, not from pride, but from the rare and unexpected kindness of a stranger. That was the moment when the invisible barriers between two worlds began to crumble. It wasn't long before her own life began to change. She found herself stepping away from endless meetings, finding joy in the smallest routines, learning that true wealth was not in assets or stock portfolios, but in love, connection, and the courage to care. And yet, the truth about her identity lingered like a secret shadow, one she feared might shatter the fragile trust that had grown between them. Then came the day she revealed the truth. Not with fanfare or expectation, but simply, quietly. She told him who she was, prepared for disbelief, anger, or distance. But what she found instead was something entirely unexpected: acceptance. Not for her status, her money, or her power, but for the woman who had seen him, believed in him, and chosen to stand by him. In that moment, their worlds collided, not in conflict, but in harmony. The café that had been their starting point became a symbol of everything that mattered: compassion, courage, and the simple, unassuming power of human kindness. As the story unfolded, she realized that life had a strange, beautiful way of teaching the lessons that money and status never could. She saw in him the extraordinary strength of ordinary people, and he saw in her the quiet yearning to be more than just a title. Together, they discovered that connection, understanding, and shared humanity were more valuable than any boardroom victory or corporate conquest. The years that followed were not without challenges. Life remained messy, unpredictable, and at times unfair. Yet they faced it together, not with grand gestures, but with steady, unwavering support. Their mornings were simple, filled with laughter, coffee, and the warmth of being seen. Their evenings were quiet, a celebration of small victories and shared dreams. And the world outside, with all its noise and judgment, faded to the background, leaving only what truly mattered: love, kindness, and the courage to step in when someone needed you most. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share your thoughts, your own stories of unexpected kindness, and let us know how you've witnessed the power of one simple, human act. Your comment could inspire someone else to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, because sometimes, the smallest gestures, paying for someone's coffee, lending a helping hand, showing up when no one expects it, can create a ripple that changes lives forever. And sometimes, just sometimes, a billionaire CEO and a single father can meet in the most ordinary place and teach the world the truest lesson of all: that wealth is measured not in dollars, but